And what that meant was that they needed to have the knowledge of the issues to know what candidates to vote for, and that was the purpose of the League of Women Voters, is we are issue-oriented. We never take a position on candidates, but we do take positions on issues. And the most important thing is that we have an educated electorate. I think everybody should vote. At the same time, we think people should understand who they're voting for and why they're voting for them. And so that's really the purpose of this. And if you're interested in learning about the League, we have some brochures over there for trying to get new members. We work real hard this time to be a registered League of Voters, so we're real excited about the election coming up. So this is the debate between city council candidates for the city of Winter Park. And a disclaimer, I don't happen to live in Winter Park, so I have no dog in this fight. I'm not going to be voting in Winter Park. We're going to be using the League of Women Voters format for this. So I'd ask you to please hold your applause until the forum is finished. There are many here who favor one person or another, and we applaud each as they speak. We'll have less time for questions. So the candidates will have 2 minutes each for an opening statement, and then 2 minutes each for their closing statement, and 1 minute to respond to each question. This is our moderator right here. Louise just pulled up the stop sign. We actually do have a timekeeper. Our timekeeper. That stop sign is very heavy and very large, so you can't miss it. She'll put it up at 30 seconds, and then that's stop.
There'll be no delay paid.
No delay. Okay, there will be a series of 4 questions for each candidate, and they will be given 1 minute to respond, and then they will also be given 1 minute to respond to each question from the audience. And we will let you know when there's 30 seconds left, and then the red card is for stop. And we have anybody who's interested in the question, or if you become interested, just raise your hands, and we'll pass out the index cards, and you can write your questions. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is, I'm going to do this since there's just 2 of you. I was going to have you.
We can draw lots.
We'll just, rather than draw lots, we'll just do this alphabetically. So Carolyn, you'll go first, and then Tom will go. So once again, we start right now with our opening statements.
Thank you very much for coming. This is working.
Yeah.
It's not working?
Is this one working?
You want to go, Tom?
No, I don't think mine's working.
No, okay, there's lots of buttons.
It's on.
Yeah, hold it close to your mouth.
Is it on now?
It's on.
No?
Hold it closer.
I think they were prompted by the voice.
Is it on now?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold it closed. Can everybody hear that? It doesn't feel like it's on.
Yeah, it is.
It's on. It's on. Yes.
I just want to say that this indicates the fear and the
Okay, so, yeah, why don't you start? Everybody's really quiet. We'll start.
Well, I'm going to stand.
Actually, why don't you come over here? This is working.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. It has absolutely been an honor to serve as your city commissioner for the last 6 years. Winter Park is an incredible community. I'm sorry that my opponent did not see fit to come tonight. I'll be honest with you, I was very surprised. Those of you who might have attended the Rollins Forum last night, there could not have been a more civil and enlightening exchange. It was absolutely not an environment where anyone could have felt intimidated. I thought it was very nice. I don't understand why she has chosen not to come, but I will tell you, as a commissioner, there are many times that I am asked to do things that I'm not very comfortable doing. I live outside my comfort zone, and that's what leaders do. And I want you to know that I appreciate you being here tonight. I think most of you know me, but in case you don't, I want to tell you why I believe I'm the best qualified for this job. I have spent the last 6 years not only serving as your commissioner, but also working to make myself a better commissioner. I have taken every class I could take from the Florida League of Cities. I have learned about city budgeting, about city boards. I have served on their finance policy committee. I have served on their growth management policy committee. I am now on the board of directors for the Tri-County League, and I am a member of their advocacy team, advocating on behalf of 400 cities in Tallahassee. Now, why does that matter to you? Because there are a lot of problems and challenges that municipalities face that cannot be solved at the local level. And I have worked very hard for you in Tallahassee and at home. Recently, my opponent took issue. I think it's time for me to stop. I'll come back.
Tom, you want to come up here too?
And again, thank you all for being here. My only comment is actions speak louder than words, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm Tom McMackin, and I've been your city commissioner for the past 4 years. For those of you that don't know me, I've served as chairman of 4 different boards within the city: planning and zoning, tree preservation, historic preservation, and the public art board. I'm also on the Winter Park Autumn Arts Festival committee. I've been there for 25 years. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm on their membership committee. I'm also a member of the Orange County Action Board that deals with poverty and unfortunate individuals in our city. In my spare time, I'm also a landscape architect at Little John Engineering. I sneak that in every once in a while to help pay the bills when you're only making $184 a month as a commissioner. My wife Ann is an architect. My daughter Emily is a junior up at Clemson. That's where my extra money goes these days. I've lived in Winter Park for 25 years now. I'm originally from Ohio. I graduated from LSU, and I say that very proudly. And I'm looking forward to the questions this evening. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, thank you. These 2 microphones were not all.
Check 1. Check 1.
It's all on the wrist.
Check 1. Check 1.
Okay, they're all working. Okay, I'm going to start here with a question. I'll have a question for both of you. And Carol, you can give it first, and Mark can give your answer. The first question is, according to the 2001 survey of the buildings eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, 128 are still standing. Only 22 of these are protected from demolition by the Winter Park Register, and the location of several of the significant ones precludes their inclusion in an historic district. As a commissioner, what, if anything, would you do to preserve these historic buildings?
That's a huge issue for me. When we first started talking about historic districts, I was very clear on the commission that the things that were important, it's not working. For me, the 3 most important aspects about historic preservation are that we, number 1, protect Park Avenue. Number 2, that we do everything we can to incentivize through ad valorem or otherwise incentives for those 130 so truly historic properties in Winter Park to be placed on the historic register. And lastly, that any neighborhood who chooses to be a historic district has a vehicle, a fair, democratic vehicle in place to allow that to happen. Thank you.
And the question dealt with homes that were outside the historic districts that were individually
They said
designated.
128 are still standing. Only 22 of these are protected from demolition. That's the question.
And they go for that.
I share that view. I wish the city had means in which to incentivize these. I think education is probably the biggest tool. Most of these homes that are historic are very expensive homes, and for the city to get involved in a tremendous amount of incentives, I don't know that we can afford that in a realistic way. But I think the main thing we can do is help educate and encourage these people to at least put them on the registry. They are historic. There is a market for those. People come to Winter Park because of its character, because of these homes, and there is a market for those homes. So I believe that is the primary way we can save these.
All right, the second question, and Tom, you take this one first. Do you think Winter Park taxpayers should vote for a $30 million referendum for a new library, civic center complex? Please explain your position.
Yes, I do. And I speak of that not as a commissioner, but as a private citizen. Our role as a commission was to get the issue on the ballot. And that's a very important issue. It's a $30 million issue. It involves a new library. I'm very enthused about that. You know, I even hate to use the word library because what is being proposed is so far removed from what we currently have that it's going to take us into the next century. So I'm very encouraged to vote for that. I'm a strong proponent of that as Tom McMacken, private citizen. It's not going to be a commission vote. It's going to be your vote. I encourage all of you. There's several websites out there. Please be informed. It's an important vote, and I think it's going to be a long-term benefit to our city.
Do I think the residents should vote yes or no? I would not enter that territory. Personally, from my perspective, the most important aspect of the new library is that we do not sell the existing premier piece of property on which our current library sits. That is my number one priority. And beyond that, quite frankly, I'm very flexible. I dare say that 50% of the people who will be voting for me on March 15th will vote yes, and 50% will vote no. And that is certainly up to you because you will be paying for the library. I just do not want us to lose the property under any condition, and that's why I'm pleased that the library referendum is for $30 million. That is adequate to provide us a wonderful new library of the future, along with the community center and associated parking lot.
I just want to remind the audience that if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and Karen will give you a card. Question 3. Traffic congestion is a mounting problem in our area. What opportunities do you see for improvement of traffic flow in Winter Park? Tom, why don't you answer this one?
Well, unfortunately, traffic problems in Winter Park are mainly generated by what I'll call cut-through traffic. It's not generated by us. Our population hasn't grown very significantly in the last 10 years. It's people coming. We suffer from geography. We're in a place where people want to go to get to someplace else. Now, to solve that, we're going to have to deal on a regional level. I mean, there's the Regional Planning Council, there's Metro Plan Orlando, there's FDOT, there's Lynx, there's Sunrail. All those entities have something to say about traffic in Winter Park. The long-term solution to this is to have a permanent funding source for alternate means of transportation, whether it's Sunrail or Lynx, whatever that might be. That's what's going to solve the problem in Winter Park, because people are going to come. There's an old saying that you can't determine who's going to come to your city, but you can determine how. And that's kind of where we are. We cannot build a wall around our city. They're coming here. The solution is to find alternate methods for their transportation.
Karen?
I was enjoying
I'll do it again.
Tom and I disagree on a few things and we agree on. And this is one that no doubt we agree on. Truthfully and thankfully, John Micah has initiated at the federal level a program to try to bring a test pilot program here to Winter Park to 1792. which will give us adaptive signalization. And that simply means that the light itself has software that can see the traffic in both directions, so that it kind of stabilizes the flow so that it becomes smoother. But we also need to admit the fact that you can't continue to build high-density multifamily development and not increase traffic in the community. Wabash right now has approval for, they have entitlements for 850 plus 10%. I'm not sure exactly what that number is. It's something under 1,000, but that's 1,000 units, 2.1 people per unit. That's another 2,000 people coming to that corner. And our neighbors should do the same thing. So I would say we need to stop changing our zoning to increase our density. And we need to realize that there is a direct correlation between density and traffic. And we need to work on increasing the use to Sunrail, and that means we need connector and circulator buses for that last mile. I've asked Rawlins, talked to Florida Hospital, and I think that is something this community should partner to do.
Okay. The last question that I have from Ann is, the Winter Park Comprehensive Plan is due for review this year. Name one element of the comprehensive plan you as a commissioner would work to change. Tom?
You know, one of the things that came when the Economic Development Board initiated a study for Winter Park, and a firm came in and looked at all the things that we could do differently in our city. And one of the things they said is that you do not have a historic preservation component in your comprehensive plan. And they were surprised by that. The city has much heritage and character as we have. So as the comp plan comes forward, I would move that we include in that the historic preservation portion to that.
It's great idea. And along with that, they also recommended that we have an economic development plan in our comprehensive plan. And I think that's a good thing too. They also recommended, however, that we reduce our parks level of service. They also recommended that we not count parking garages in the maximum size of buildings that are allowed in this community. I think both of those are very bad ideas. And I hope that you will show up at the commission meetings and at the review of our comprehensive plan to make sure indeed that those things do not happen. Additionally, we need to look at our drainage, and we need to look at water for the future. We have an inadequate storage facility on our reclaimed water facility now. We could fix that, give me another $1 million. But there are a lot of good things, but I would say to you that all the law requires after 7 years is that we review our comprehensive plan in light of new legislation. So major changes to our plan should not be warranted. Thank you.
Okay. We now have some questions from our audience. The first one is Winter Park doing anything to encourage small businesses in the new construction? I see lots of chain restaurants and stores, but no locally owned businesses, except for too many butcher shops. So who wants to take this question? Are we doing anything for small businesses?
Well, that's a good question, because really as a city, we're not in the real estate business. I mean, developers, owners, whatever, develop buildings, whatnot, and it's up to them to market those to whoever is able to fill them. I mean, that's really what, I want to say what the American economy is all about, is a free enterprise system. And so we don't encourage or discourage realtors, or what, I don't say realtors, retail to come. We encourage them to come, but we don't encourage who they are. We discourage some. If we pass the medical marijuana law, we have a certain area of the town, we've said that's the only place that's going to be allowed to be sold, but beyond that, we don't encourage or, we don't discourage that.
We don't mandate a mix of use in Winter Park. That is a possibility, but it's never seemed to be the right thing to do because it changes too often. And that needs to be market driven. On the other hand, there are some businesses that don't fit with our character, and we've lost some businesses that contributed a lot to our character. If you want an area to be live, work, play, then running out the little laundromats or the shoe stores or the little markets is not in the plan. That doesn't work well, because then you can't truly live, work, play. I would not mind seeing a few incubator locations so that our economic development board could try to encourage businesses that would like to see here. But that takes a lot more thought than I could give at the table sitting here right now. So I guess I would have to concur with Tom that the capital market kind of drives the line. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't plan and encourage the kind of businesses that we want, and we can do that.
Okay, I have a good one here. Recently, Winter Park passed an ordinance that prohibits performers from performing on the avenue. At the same time, Winter Park promotes itself as a cultural city. How do you justify these two opposing positions? Who wants to take that one?
Art like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And performances are also in the, I guess, the ear of the beholder. What was driving that is unfortunately, we have individuals, groups, or whatever, that take advantage of the wonderful area we have on Park Avenue. And I don't know about you, but I don't often get to sit outside a window and enjoy a great dinner, but I don't like somebody shaking their, what in my face while I'm doing that. And so we said, how do we control this so that we get the best part and we can have some manner in which we can deal with the other? We had our city manager and our city attorney look at other ordinances within the state. They found several that have held up constitutionally. The problem with that is they strike a very broad brush, because performances can be anything from pole dancing to a violin. Now, what it does is it allows anybody that wants to do something downtown to go to the city manager, say, this is what I'm going to do, and it's at the discretion of the city manager whether that person is allowed to perform, to paint, to play, whatever it is on Park Avenue. It doesn't strictly prohibit everything.
Okay. That was actually a wonderful decision to participate in, because it's probably the first time that I can remember that the Park Avenue Merchants Association, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Winter Park Commission all agreed that we were doing the right thing for the residents of the town. And quite frankly, part of our challenge is that our sidewalks are so narrow, and we do try to accommodate people with strollers still coming down the street, and we do try to accommodate sidewalk dining. If you look at best practices in New York, sidewalk dining typically requires 30 feet. We don't even come close to that. So when we start trying to add sidewalk dining, performers, dogs, and people, things get a little bit out of hand. So I don't feel badly that we've asked them to move 22 feet across the road. We didn't ask them to go home. We didn't ask them to start singing. I'll tell you, when I was in England, I stopped and talked to every one of the performers in the tube, only to learn that those are very coveted positions. They are permitted, they audition, and they wait almost a year to be able to perform there. I came home and wanted Rollins to do it. Oh, I've got the stop sign. I wanted Rollins to do it for us, but they said it was against people's rights in the United States, so we had to do what we had to do.
Okay, more questions. What is your view and plan to support taxing, to keep single-family communities, I guess to restrict rezoning so that single-family communities can be put in here instead of high-density communities? Does that make sense?
The first part didn't, but the last part does. What am I going to do to ensure that we stay a single-family home resident?
Yeah, what is your,
community? Well, I'm going to vote no. It's that simple. It's that simple. You need to, if you want to remain a single-family home community, then you must elect people who have enough backbone to vote no. And you take a lot of heat for voting no in this town. And it concerns me that if we can't show up for the debate, will we be able to vote no? And sometimes it is essential. I have voted yes for many things that have brought great beauty and elegance to this gracious town. I have voted no at every time someone has wanted to reduce the size of our single-family homes or cover more pervious space, not allowing the aquifer to recharge here and the trees to grow. So I simply say to you, it's very easy. We have zoning in place. Don't change it.
Any comment? Tom?
You know, you get in trouble for voting yes sometimes, too. So, been on the side of that coin, I concur with Carolyn in the context that the easiest way to keep your single family is to keep your single family. And that's a pretty straight way to go about it. So I think we've committed ourselves. There's been some occasions where I have voted for a multifamily, and I felt that was appropriate at the point, but for the most part, we voted to keep single-family residential zoning as single-family residential zoning. And that's a pretty straightforward answer.
Well, I should clarify, I may have voted once or twice along the way, but it doesn't come to mind right now. But I don't want to leave you with the idea that if I thought it wasn't the right thing to do, I'd still do it. Excuse me.
Okay. Okay, how can the incumbents justify their vote to give $1 million to the Dr. Phillips Center and nothing to our own Winter Park cultural organizations such as the Bach Festival or the Polytechnic Museum? Who wants to take that incumbent?
Well, I'll take that one because one of us voted for it and one of us didn't. And I'll let you know which one did. And you can guess who the other one is. I voted for it. And to put that in context, we give somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it's about $1.5 million to nonprofits within our community anyways. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and they have probably a world-class art museum that both the city and private individuals supported. And that institution, the benefits that it brings are so incredible. The whole generations have grown up going to the art museum. We have a world-class performing arts center. That is going to bring so much more enjoyment, so much more art to our city. We've got it where it's so close. It's not downtown. It's not taking up space in Winter Park. We were able to make a small contribution. It's $100,000 a year over 10 years out of a $150 million budget a year. I thought the benefits for that to our city culturally were a small investment with an incredible upside, and we will see returns from that for many, many years to come.
Carolyn, did you want to say something?
Now, how did you vote?
I'll tell you that I voted no, and it wasn't easy for me, because most of the people that participate aren't Winter Park residents, and there are quite a few of them. But we had just reduced funding on the west side for our program, and I didn't think it was the right time. I thought that we should be contributing to our local organizations. I know that the Winter Park Playhouse was begging for a new facility and some assistance. It wasn't an easy vote for me because I do believe that the Dr. Phillips Center will be an incredible asset to the region. But for me, we are a small municipality. We do have needs of our own that go unmet. And I thought that my first obligation was to our local organizations and our local needs before a regional need. And that's not something I would want to die on a sword over. It was a hard decision, but it was the decision that I made.
What are your thoughts on the growing homeless situation in Winter Park? Tom, you want to take that first?
Well, I want to say that I serve on the Community Action Board for Orange County, and it's a growing concern all over the region. And we as I want to say we as a people, not just we as a city, that is unacceptable in this country to have the amount of homeless people that we do. We have to solve that headache. I want to say it starts with each one of us. There's many ways we can donate to help for that. Regional questions and national questions. And we just have to accept the society as that is not the way that we prefer to have our community live. And so we all have an obligation to help solve homelessness in this area of this country.
As a commission, we have not addressed this issue at all. Do we need to? Absolutely. And the question is, what are our alternatives? And I don't know that answer. It's a regional problem, it's a local problem, it's at the state level, but we have to address it. We can't afford to continue to look away. I will tell you that when I go to the cloisters now to talk to people, they want to talk to me about the homeless people sleeping on the benches in the morning when they get up. When I talk to people about Central Park, they're concerned. This is new for us. It's not something that Winter Park has had to deal with before, and we are learning. And I think it is important, as you are doing today, that you hold us accountable to say, we want you to start talking about this and thinking about this and coming up with ideas for resolution. We have not done that to date, and we absolutely need to. And thank you for bringing it to our attention.
I think this is for you, Carolyn. Last night, your opponent stated that there were no sidewalks or lights on Wilburn Avenue. The implication being the commission was unresponsive to merchants. Could you comment on this?
Well, the city of Winter Park spends a significant amount of funds in our central business district. And we do that gladly because we understand that the central business district is the heart of this community. It does indeed establish the values of every one of your homes. It is this beautiful avenue that comes here, that people come to. No, not every street is bricked. The prioritization of bricking is interesting in that particular situation. But I would say to you that the city of Winter Park not only appreciates our business, but we invest continuously in Park Avenue, often at the exclusion of our businesses along Aloma, along Fairbanks, along Lee Road. So I think, and I don't want to say, I think if you're a business owner on a particular street, that's what you see. I will say that anything in the central business district of Winter Park is hardly shabby. It may not have been the very best available, but it certainly was higher than most standards in surrounding communities in society. That stops. No, it's okay. We'll get used to it.
Okay, here's a question I always, people as a non-resident of Winter Park, or somebody who likes to go eating and shopping there, how can you discuss the challenge of parking in Winter Park?
You know, for native Winter Parkers, there is no park problem.
Just no
We all know
rest
where the
of us.
spaces are. You know, it's the common thing that, you know, you want to park right in front of the things, the restaurant you're going to, or right in front of the store you're going to, and if you can't find a space right away, then there's a parking problem. I don't mind parking in the municipal lot and walking through Central Park to go shopping. I don't mind parking behind the businesses to walk down to the Alphont. I mean, part of the ambiance in Winter Park is walking through Winter Park. So there is not a structural parking problem in Winter Park. There's a perception that I can't park in front of the store at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So
So there is no problem.
I don't believe we have in the last 3 years with the new municipal lot behind City Hall, with the lot by the Sunrail station. There's parking in Winter Park if you don't mind walking the block to find it.
Okay, this is a,
Did you want me to try?
oh, sure.
No, that's fine, I won't. That's just a very hard balancing act, parking in Winter Park. Because the alternative is, do we struggle with parking, or do we build large parking garages that destroy the ambiance of the small town feel that everyone seems to appreciate about Winter Park? So there's a real balance there. Before I would ever consider putting in an enormous parking structure in downtown Winter Park, I would insist that all of the city employees park in the parking garage over in Hannibal Square or someplace else and walk the 2 blocks to City Hall. They jog by my house at lunch. We could probably walk a couple of blocks to get into City Hall. I would insist that the merchants, and I know some of you are out there, do not park in front of your store. And I know we do that. So there are, I don't know how many parking places that would be total, but that's a lot of parking places that we could free up. I also still believe that with the shuttle bus to connect people to Sunrail, we can encourage the use. We could give our employees Sunrail tickets, Rollins could give their students Sunrail tickets. There are things we could do to make it better, and you could come on Sunrail. And I hope you will.
Okay, but if I try to have dinner at nighttime and
So you fix that, that's a Sunrail problem. That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
I think this is a question for you. Will you ever advance or support citywide design on architectural standards? I don't know, either one of you.
Somebody knows us well.
If I get these questions at home, I don't know. We've talked about that for years, and that debate has gone back and forth. And you know, what kind of architectural standards would you impose? And part of this, and I've talked about it before, I call it our eclectic aesthetic. You couldn't recreate Park Avenue with architectural standards. Now, we can put some, you know, how there are certain design principles that you can apply to buildings. But I've always shied away from pure architectural standards because we are who we are because we're so diverse. There aren't monoculture subdivisions in Winter Park. I don't care where you go, it's different everywhere you look. And that's part of the charm, that's part of the character of this place. There's some size things we can talk about, there's some density things we can talk about. But to say everybody has an orange door or a blue window or something, even though I'm in a design field, I really appreciate the eclectic nature of this place, which gives it its character and its charm.
And I am a huge advocate of architectural committee review. That's a little different than saying you have to do your house the same way and you have to paint something the same way. But what that does say is that there is a rotating board of extremely qualified architects, and they're available in the city and have even come and volunteered to in the past, who would review these large projects for quality, for balance, for simple things that create excellence. Not to demand a certain color, or like Coral Gables, a tile roof, but instead say, is this a quality building, and does it contribute to our hard-earned reputation as a community extension? I think it is time for us to admit that people are making money here. Many of them are not building for themselves. They are coming in from other places, and they are using our property to make money for themselves without regard to what they leave behind. And it's time for us to demand excellence.
All right, I guess this is for you, Carolyn. If the referendum passes and the city is to keep the old library site, what do you envision for that property?
It would be presumptuous of me to tell you what that property should be. It would be fair of you to at least give you ideas of what I might see as acceptable, since I get to vote. Whatever gets done on that property needs to have at least the same amount of green space and trees that it does now. When you drive to Winter Park from the airport, That is the first thing you see. That piece of property is the first sign of our central business district. And I want it to always remain a municipal piece of property. Could we land lease it? Of course we could. Could we use it as city hall? Of course we could. Could we make it an art museum or a cultural institution? Of course we could. There are many things that would be acceptable. But the real question is, what do our children's children need in their downtown? I want them to have the land.
Tom, you want to answer that one? Is that what you do?
I agree in the sense that there's potentially many opportunities on that site. Should the city keep it? Should the city sell it? Should the city do whatever with it? And we really haven't gone down that path yet, either as a city or a commission. So there's a tremendous number of opportunities, some we probably hadn't even thought of yet. That's kind of a wait and see.
Last night,
I wasn't
Carolyn,
going to say that publicly.
last night Carolyn said we don't need bike lanes. Instead, we need sidewalks for kids with training wheels. Is this really going to help with congestion? If not, please comment on your solution for congestion.
Since I said that, do you mind if I go first? Because in my mind's eye,
Go ahead,
yes, yes, indeed, that will help with congestion. It's a very small percentage of our population that commutes back and forth to work, and we want to see that grow. And I can tell you, when you live in Florida, are you going to opt to ride on a 10-foot wide trail under a tree, or do you want to ride along the edge of Lee Road or 1792? To me, I don't think that's an issue of age. I think that's an issue of safety. Someone was kind enough, I don't know if you're in the audience, to share with me just this past week, I guess Orange County or Orlando One, in their Sustainability Complete Streets program, they talk about safety. And the #1 safe bicycling route is on a wider path off of the main roads. So I'm 100% advocate of people riding their bikes to work, riding their bikes to Sunrail. I hope we have bike lanes, bike paths that connect all of our neighborhoods with Sunrail. I think that's important. I want people to be able to ride their bikes downtown to Winter Park Village. So for me, that's what I have in mind. I want those people to bike to work. Okay.
Would you have a comment about?
I'll agree with Carolyn. I think the misconception is that bike lanes and bike paths add to congestion. And they really, properly designed, they really don't. So I think that's somewhat of a misnomer.
Okay, at times it feels that Rollins College has an undue influence over the city of Winter Park, more influence than citizens or neighborhoods. Please comment.
I've never experienced that undue influence, so I wouldn't be a fair person to comment. I will tell you that all of our institutions, whether it's Florida Hospital, whether it's Rollins College, whether it's the Morris Foundation, whether it's the Edith Fish Foundation, all of those institutions are well respected within our community, and they bring a great deal to the table for our community. I have never personally experienced any pressure from any of them. I have certainly shared in vision and the things that they have brought to us. I have found that to be positive. Is there a point at which it becomes residence versus institution? I have not seen that yet. So for myself, I'm pretty comfortable with where we're going. Thank you.
I've not seen any undue pressure. I think part of the perception is the fact that many of those institutions do so much. So there always seem to be doing something in our city, and that may give the perception that there's undue pressure. Whenever you have, I spoke about this last night, whenever you have those different uses, you have a college or a hospital that borders a single-family area, there's always friction there. I mean, it's just two different uses, and those points where they connect, there's always that edginess to it. But I have never experienced anything, what I would call undue pressure from any of those institutions that Carolyn mentioned to sway one way or another.
Okay.
I wonder maybe that if the person who asked that question wants to submit an
You know, I don't know who's the person who asked the question about undue influence by Rollins.
If it's something, I'll bet we don't understand the question.
So,
No, nobody wants to acknowledge it. All right, well, so much for that. Okay, and if anybody else has any questions, you know, we're going around collecting them.
Can you speak up a little bit, or can you not hear us? A little bit more into the microphone.
Okay, yeah, the microphone, you really have to speak into it. What, if any, progress has been made in efforts to control the ultimate use of the Winter Park Post Office property and its relation to our Central Park?
I'm going to take the pessimistic view on that. I think someone else will take the optimistic view on that. We're dealing with the post office. Enough said.
And I do have a little different view on that. We are dealing with the post office, but we're not dealing enough. A few years back, we spent a great deal of effort. We had a federal lobbyist who was working for us very seriously and very committedly to acquire that property. At that point in time, we weren't getting a yes, let's go answer, but we were getting discussion, and we were communicating, and we were establishing a relationship. I was the representative at that point in time. A couple of years ago, the commission voted that instead of having me as the representative to continue to work this, they would do it as a commission. And quite frankly, Tom, since the day we voted to do it as a commission, I haven't seen us do anything. And if I'm wrong, help me.
No, no, I don't.
Okay, all right.
Don't
So-
worry, I'll jump in.
Okay. But I would say we need to refocus on it. We used to have it on our capital improvements plan, and this commission has removed it. I would like to see it on the capital improvements plan. I would like to see it seriously lobbied, and I would like for us to pursue controlling that property. Not running the post office off, I have no interest in that, but controlling the property. And thank you, whoever asked that question. I have almost forgotten myself how passionate I am about that.
What, if anything, will you do to protect West Winter Park from further encroachment and gentrification? How will you protect West Winter Park if you protect other areas?
Well, I think there's two parts to that, and we discussed it earlier with the zoning. You know, the best way to maintain a single-family neighborhood is to keep a single-family neighborhood. I think the other question becomes a gentrification question, and I have to say that there's a lot of neighborhoods in Winter Park that are going through that. The house next to me used to be a one-story ranch. Now it's a 4,000 square foot, 2-floor. That is gentrification. Someone with more money came in, bought the house, tore it down, and built a brand new one. That happens on the west side. The biggest protection we can give is to keep our zoning the way it is as single family. That's what preserves neighborhoods. And again, I'm committed to doing that as I have been in the past.
That is probably the most important thing we can do is to keep the zone. But we could also not allow the variances. We could also not allow the buildings to be closer to the property line. We could also make sure that the community understands that if they